So talk to us about some of the stuff that you've got then, because you've always got, you're a wealth of good information, and this is a time,
It's
and
just
since,
it's just my reading the special ed connection, um, updates on COVID-19 every week and seeing what they're telling teachers, educators and school administrators and school district attorneys to do. So
I'm just, somebody asked, I joined late, I don't know what the topic is, so I'm just going to remind you that we're here with special education attorney Bonnie Yates. She is talking with us about things that we should know that are cutting edge up to the moment, things that are happening with our kids' education in school, and so on and so forth. Bonnie is with us from Tolner Law Offices, so catching you up. Okay.
Yes, I'm trying to bring materials for the school district to our side of the table so you can hear how they think. And there's several categories of things they were talking about in the last week or so. First one is set ground rules prior to virtual IEP meeting you think may be contentious. Well, this is interesting. I want to tell you that this gets read at the beginning of almost all of my meetings, and I don't know how personally to take it or if they do it with everybody. But I'm assuming my IEP meeting is going to be contentious. And I'll also tell you something, they threaten me with shutting down the meeting because sometimes I'm just, at a point in my life where I just say what I see or say what I think, and sometimes it makes other people uncomfortable. That includes calling out people on their tone. That includes calling out the district on the fact that they're going to force me into litigation and they're going to give the same thing and it's going to cost them a lot more money. I had a meeting.
And they literally threatened to shut down the meeting because of something that you say that's not profanity?
Right, because they feel that my tone is confrontational. So I had a meeting last week where they said to me, well, I hope you'll be professional in this meeting. Like they called me before the meeting. And when I got into the meeting, I said, asking me to be professional is really misleading because what you're basically saying to me is I don't have any right to advocate strongly for a family that you have put through 3 eligibility determinations, knowing that their child has autism, knowing that their child has, high functioning autism, but he has a lot of needs. And so you're basically saying, come into the meeting, Bonnie, and be dispassionate about the fact that this isn't fair. And I said, I'm not going to stand down. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. And if you think this family shouldn't be upset, you got another thing coming. So don't try to control the dialogue by telling me that I need to be professional. So that's what they're, that's one of the things that comes up at these meetings. So they're saying set ground rules prior to the virtual IEP meeting you think may be contentious. Well, I've had a lot of people complain about the things I've said over the years or complain about my tone. I've never had them shut down a meeting. You know why? Because they don't want to reschedule it. That's why. So I don't think you should worry too much, but I'm just going to read you.
Well, excuse me though, but wouldn't that also, if your meeting is shut down because your lawyer has said something that's within the confines of, that would be, wouldn't that be a denial of faith?
It'd be a denial of parental participation.
There we go. I knew there was a thing.
Which is a procedural safeguard that you have under the IDEA. So anyway, in this scenario, the meeting is already tense and an IEP team member, not the mom, says she has to leave early because of an appointment with her daughter. She logs out. The parents see her leave and assume she's hung up on them. Parents during this time may be quick to make assumptions. We have to be familiar with the technology and use it in every way we can to ensure that everyone knows what's going on. That's a quote from a school district attorney in the state of Ohio. For example, in the scenario above, the team member could have typed a reminder of her needing to leave and a goodbye message into the chat box before leaving. Or the professional running the meeting could have reminded the group why the team member signed off. So they're telling educators, use these tips to prevent and potentially address contentious virtual IEP meetings. 1, seek feedback from the parent before the meeting. So that's basically, they're saying, send them a draft IEP and have them assess everything they can in advance of the meeting and send back feedback about the present levels of performance and whether the goals are appropriate and
Want
getting
somebody
that.
to take the temperature of the parent.
Well, I
Just-
guess it's taking the temperature of the parent, but I highly advise that you do give them as much feedback as you can before the meeting, even if there's a potential they'll use it against you. It just seems like it will streamline and sort of better organize the meeting. But you're right. The attorney said you can spend half the meeting talking about that and not the substance of services and goals. You want to focus your energy on the substance. Suggest parents write down and submit any questions they have before the meeting so they can organize their thoughts in advance. This is good for us too, he said. It's also evidence that we wanted to participate. Ask parents a few days before the meeting if they have any concerns about using the technology. They may be embarrassed to tell you they're having trouble, particularly if a relationship is already rocky. Record in the prior written notice all your efforts to engage the parents before the meeting. Set the ground rules before the meeting. The professional who is running the meeting should let all attendees know that they will be muted as they join the meeting to prevent people from talking over each other. The host will then unmute each participant as he presents during the meeting and unmute the parents and others when the presenter is ready to take questions. This is a much better approach than saying, Mrs. Smith, if you don't stop interrupting, I'm going to have to mute you, he said. Now this is interesting. Keep the number of school-based attendees low. So for the first time, the technology is actually pushing them in a direction that we've all been squawking about for years, which is why you need 19 people to overwhelm one poor little set of parents, you know?
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. So they say their reason is that it will minimize the likelihood that a team member who isn't speaking, that his or her participation will be misinterpreted. For instance, a team member who isn't speaking may be looking down at her notes, but appear on the screen to parents as if she's not paying attention or falling asleep. Limiting how many people are in the meeting limits the possibility of something like that happening and setting the parent off. Well, I'm assuming that everybody in these Zoom meetings is doing their, Instacart shopping list. I mean,
Man.
so yeah, it's better. I mean, I think less is more generally. Also, keep in mind that if parents have a particularly difficult relationship with a general ed teacher, it may be better not to invite that person to the meeting if there are other teachers who can participate remotely. That teacher may still be a trigger. At the same time, remember that the parents can invite someone with knowledge or special expertise regarding their child to the meeting, but you can ask to reschedule the meeting with your attorney. This is to the school district if the parents have given their attorney access without warning you, which is true. That's why you have to always let them know in advance if you're going to bring an attorney to the IEP meeting. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
They say, explore mediation, facilitation. That's something which we've talked about a little on the show. The districts usually have informal mediation. I don't usually believe the deals are so good with informal mediation, but you could do real mediation. He's saying you might get farther in your discussion if you have a neutral third party. We found holding IEP meetings virtually a bit challenging because you can't see each other well or read each other's body language. Would you be willing to use a facilitator? Asterisk, don't blindly use breakout rooms. This hasn't happened to me yet. If things become heated during the meeting, resist the urge to place attendees in a breakout room while you talk to a single team member about the conflict. If the meeting is going off the rails, I wouldn't want to put the school team and the parents in the same room while I pull aside one person. Then everyone else is yelling at one another without me, he said. Debrief after a contentious IEP meeting. Take the time after the meeting to frankly discuss with school-based team members what the meeting looked like. Look at what the optics were. Maybe a teacher noticed a colleague's door was open behind him and saw his child walk by. Parents may view that as unprofessional or disrespectful of their privacy. There's more, but usually you want to stop me because you usually have comments, so I'm pausing for your comments.
Well, this is fascinating. And this is so good that you're sharing this information because, again, I want to remind everybody this is stuff that school districts have written for themselves and other school districts as tips for them, not tips for us, but this is important stuff for us to know. And it really, I keep thinking about that first one about, the sort of take the parent's temperature a couple of days before. And that's not a new trick. I don't know whether it was you or someone in your office who had told me early on that they were going to find the person that I got along with the most. And a couple of days before the IEP, that person would come sniffing around just to be like, hi, how are things going? What are you thinking? And this very non-confrontational thing when at pickup, that was always a little contrived, and it would freak me out because it would be the person that I trusted. But it was you or someone in your office who said to me to have a plan of attack and to feed information to that person, knowing that they were going to go back to the team. That if there was something that I was like, well, this is a real sticking point for me, this one thing, and I'm not going to accept this, I'm only going to accept this, that person would run back to the team. And then my IEP went all the better for it. But I was feeling betrayed. I'm going to be very honest with you, Bonnie. I was feeling like this person on the team that I trusted, I think it was you that you were like, get over that, use it to your, advantage, and let that person know the things that you want them to take back to the team. Let them know that, you're not going to accept this, but that you would accept this. That always worked. So I think it's you I have to thank.
Well, I think you make a good point, and I may have said that to you. And as you were talking, I thought about my own dilemmas, daily, weekly, or whatever, when you want to share stuff in advance and when you want to purposely hold stuff back. And sometimes we do purposely hold stuff back with the idea being that we don't want them to have too much time to think about it. I noticed last week on one of these chats that somebody sent me a message through the Zoom privately. And I, like a psychologist that was participating in the meeting, and I wrote her back and said, I wouldn't assume that this is private. Like, it's the school district's technology. Wouldn't they be able to see the private chats?
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.